Yes.
Okay. Jerry Abrahams, Phil DeFronto, Timothy Hodges, Catherine McKinnon,
Here.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Here.
Franklin Perry, Lisa Tepper Bates, and Greg Ugalde.
Present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum in attendance for the meeting.
Go ahead, Terry.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dawn. So good afternoon, everyone. And you have before you a memo that is discussing the 2024 and 2025 QAP, an additional small revision that was previously suggested by the board task force, and a recommendation to move forward this QAP to seek authorization for public comment from the full board of directors. So at its meeting on April 27th, this task force discussed the proposed technical revisions to the 2024 and 25 QAP, acknowledged that no policy revisions were being implemented, but recognized that they were technical in nature. And during that discussion, there was a question about the classifications of preservation and new construction. And so staff was tasked with reviewing the activities of the past several years and providing that information to this task force. So that's largely what you see in this memo. And I will give you, by way of background, the summary of this research. So the policy that we articulated the last 2 years and then going forward in the proposed draft QAP remains unchanged from policy that we've really articulated in years past with respect to preservation of affordable housing. We just introduced in the 2022 and 23 QAP preservation as a distinct classification, separate from new construction as the other classification. The preservation applications are evaluated based on a set of listed criteria, which largely haven't changed in the past 7-8 years. New construction applications continue to be evaluated based on a points incentive system. Prior to 22, the preservation was included in the points evaluation structure, and there was a lot of incentivizing for new construction and or an increase in unit production when there was a preservation of affordable housing. So you would see either points were provided for new construction or an increase by 10% or more, or rehabilitation and points provided when there were certain criteria met. There is a table in the memo that shows you an excerpt of the 2020 QAP and what the point structure looked like at that time. So in the years prior to 2020, say particularly the 3 years of 2017, 18, and 19, the language in the QAP was essentially the same. The difference being that a preservation application with moderate rehab was included and was eligible for 2 points. In later years, we just moved straight to substantial rehabilitation with an increase in points. In 2021 and the following year, applicants for tax credits attended a required pre-application meeting to discuss their intentions to apply and to identify which classification they believed would be appropriate for their development proposal. Staff offered guidance at that time, and applicants were reminded of the existing and occupied standard and the preservation of affordability for developments seeking to apply under that preservation classification. So the intention stated in the current and proposed QAP is to award the total 9% tax credits and a split of 25% to the preservation developments and 75% to new construction developments. Results in the 2022 and 2023 rounds reflect that split, and there's a table that also shows the results from those 2 years. You'll see that preservation classifications are competing against each other in their own classification against the criteria that's specified in the QAP. Those awarded in the past 2 years that you see in the table in your memo, 3 of the 4 developments awarded under the preservation classification are located in areas of opportunity: West Hartford, Greenwich, and Stamford. One is located in East Hartford. 2 of the 4 developments create new units while preserving the affordability of the existing development. West Hartford Fellowship is the only development that is creating more units than it is preserving, but all of which will be affordable. It should be noted that this development is the first phase of a multi-phase development that seeks to replace functionally obsolete buildings with new updated energy efficient buildings and to provide homes and handicap accessibility for its current resident population, while at the same time expanding and utilizing excess acreage on its site to create new units to address the needs of the very low income population that it serves, either on its waiting list or those who would otherwise qualify to apply. This area is critically important to be expanding the inventory of affordable housing units. I don't know that you want to go over much more of that detail, but just
Terry,
yes.
so just because I do have to leave at 2:40 the latest because I'm in a panel.
Yes.
So what is the recommendation of the staff? I'm sorry to cut you guys short, but
Oh, no, that's okay, because this was really it. I was just going to say the
Oh, okay.
recommendation forward is to amend the draft revision as was suggested by the task force last month to include or replacement, to recognize that, as you suggested, that there is a lot of new inventory being created as it should be. And also to seek authorization for public comment from the full board of directors at its meeting this month. So we're asking for your approval of both.
Any comments on the presentation from Terry? I guess questions. Terry, do I have to ask for a vote, or since nobody has any comments or questions, do I need to have a motion?
I think it would be helpful just to acknowledge that we will move forward with the QAP as presented and before the board's approval of the public hearing next month, or I'm sorry, next week.
Okay, can I have a motion? Can I have a motion?
I'll make a
to
motion.
approve?
I'll second
Can I have
it.
a second?
Yeah,
All
I'll
those
second
in
it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Terry,
Okay.
you also need approval of the minutes, right?
Yes, please.
So
Can
moved.
I have a motion to approve? Thank you.
I'll
Can I have
second.
a second?
Aye.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much, Terry.
Thank you so much for your time. I
you.
really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Alrighty.
Thank you,
Take
thank
care.
you, staff, for the work that you guys did. Thank you.
Pat, let
You're
me ask one
welcome.
question.
Yes.
Do you, so do we think that that's good that we got it out of the way? And I think it's good that we'll have the board comment, but just as a practical matter, I believe, was it Kathy that was saying that kind of raised the issue, right? Last meet. Does
Yes.
this look workable now with the concerns that were raised? It seems to be that at least for a next step, that it looks like a good way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it works, you know, because I looked at it as a developer. When you think about preservation, usually I think about it in terms of like historic context and that kind of thing. So it's always associated with just rehab.
Yeah.
So,
And
you know,
I-
I think this makes it clearer.
Yeah, and I think the other purpose in creating this special meeting was for us to be able to go back and take a look at how it's been in application, because we talked about it in theory at the last meeting, and we wanted to see exactly how it's actually been carried out, right? So that's what Terry did, and that's the information. So we're not seeing that it's creating situations where people are creating, you know, they're knocking down 25 units of affordable and they're putting up 200 units of market rate.
Right.
So I think that's what that was the concern last time around. And so it just seems that the way we have it right now, I think is going to be optimal.
So in the only question that I had was, do we think it allows for enough incentive to do the creation of new units when given the chance that because it begged a question last time we talked about it, that making sure that everybody was treated fairly, that you weren't given a huge advantage in one of the areas, but we also at the same time making sure that we do give proper incentives to get additional units where we can. And
And so
we-
Greg, that's a good point. So one of the concerns that we had last meeting was that we were we were passing things through the preservation category that had the creation of new units that, if they were in the competitive round, may not have scored competitively, right? And so what we've seen again is that what's in the preservation round should be in the preservation round. And if you look at West Hartford Fellowship, you'll see that answers your question, right? Are they motivated to develop new units? So in that instance, they're actually creating more units than they previously had. So it certainly allows for that.
Yeah, see, because that's what we don't want to stifle. If you can
Exactly.
preserve, hey, knock yourself out, grab us new units as well, right? Just as
yeah.
long as it's an even playing field, and it seems to be
Right.
from that
Dawn,
data.
can you scroll down a little bit, please? Yeah, so Greg, if you look at so what we did was we installed the language we talked about that says or replacement in the actual QAP. And then in the glossary, if you look at the very last paragraph there, we allow, if you look at the end, it says with or without net new affordable and or market rate unit production. So we're telling people you can go ahead under this category and provide net new, either market or affordable.
So if, when you look at some of the grandfathering that's done, say on a commercial building or whatever, and you're preserving the one fireplace and then you're building a whole new complex around it, even if that happened, we're still okay with it in a way. We're not seeing that because that's not really in the spirit of preservation. But even if you take it to the black and white example, if we're getting new units, we do have some flexibility along that gambit, it seems. At least, if it changes, the task force meets enough so that if there was trend switches,
Right.
it would be interesting. But you can't address problems that aren't here.
Right. And Greg, you're a builder and you've got a builder mentality. And what I need you to try to think of here, when we say preservation here, it's the preservation of affordability.
Yeah, right.
Right. So we're
Yeah.
not talking
So there's a
about
big
preserving any
difference, right.
portion of the building. We're talking about preserving the existing affordability. And that's what we've created with this is, so let's say a building has 30 units and they're all 60 AMIs. Going forward, they have to have at least 30 units at 60 AMI. They can't in their preservation application reduce it to 20. We want, that's not preservation.
And I think you just hit on the piece that I was missing. So you could actually have 100% new construction as long as
Yes.
you're preserving. Okay.
The affordability restrictions. Yes, we're preserving affordability
Okay.
here.
It's
Yeah.
got nothing to do. Okay.
Yeah.
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 It's not the bricks and mortar, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was how
Yeah.
I had read it originally too. I didn't
Yeah.
really understand it to be the preservation of the affordability. Yeah.
No, it's so much easier for builders and stuff too when you're doing it. It's the
Yeah.
black and white examples that,
Right.
that clarify. So, but that makes it, it could be a brand new, just get rid of everything, put them in. And as long as you're starting with your base amount of affordability, you can also increase it with the way it's written.
Yeah, and again, that's what West Hartford Fellowship is doing. They're taking down the smaller, outdated buildings and they're building new, modern buildings with more units.
Got it. Perfect. Good.
You have us here. Any other questions?
I think that was good. We got rid of the voting first and then we could.
All right.
Right.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Yeah,
take
thanks.
care, everyone.
Thank you so
Bye.
Bye.
much. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.